Pain of delay and doubt. Have you ever stood so still, not because you wanted peace, but because you were terrified that any movement might make things worse? Like taking one more step would just lead to another dead end, another disappointment? You're not alone. Many of us have been there, stuck in a place between what we prayed for and what hasn't happened. Circling the same unanswered prayers, the same unopened doors, feeling like we're lost in a loop that no one sees but us. And in that quiet, something louder begins to speak. Doubt, delay, disappointment. It whispers in moments when you're most vulnerable, tells you your time has passed, that others got there first, that maybe you missed your shot. And the worst part, you start to believe it. Not all at once, but little by little, your confidence erodes. You stop dreaming. You start shrinking. You tell yourself you're fine, but inside, it feels like your fire is dimming. There's a fatigue that isn't physical, it's soul deep. A weariness that comes from hope deferred. And while the world moves on, you stand still, unsure if you're being faithful or just forgotten. But what if that stillness isn't punishment? What if it's not failure or abandonment? What if it's something sacred? The delay did not cancel your destiny. Listen closely. Just because something has been delayed doesn't mean it's been denied. What God began in you, He is still invested in finishing. You haven't been dropped, replaced, or overlooked. The dream you carry, it still breathes. Even if all you hear right now is silence. You weren't just waiting for a promise, you were being prepared to carry it. God wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was building your foundation, strengthening your roots in places no one could see. The ache in your heart, it's not failure. It's divine hunger, a holy restlessness meant to pull you deeper. Sometimes we think delay means God changed His mind, but He's not like us. He doesn't start something beautiful in your life just to abandon it halfway. He doesn't tease you with hope only to watch you break. In fact, He uses the delay to shape you, so that when the door finally opens, you don't just walk through it excited, you walk through it ready. With fire, with clarity, with weight. You see, delay isn't always about the promise. Sometimes it's about the person being trusted with the promise. You were planted, not buried. It's easy to feel like you've been buried when life goes quiet, like the soil is too heavy, like everything good in you is being suffocated beneath unanswered prayers. But what if you weren't buried? What if you were planted? God's delay was never meant to end you. It was meant to root you, to remove the harmful voices that were still too loud in your life, to shut doors you would have walked through out of fear, to reroute you when you were about to settle for less than what He had for you. You were not forgotten in the dirt. You were hidden with purpose. The waiting wasn't wasted. It was shaping you in places no applause could reach. And yes, it hurts when others seem to arrive first. When they shine louder, move faster, get what you're still praying for. But remember, God's timeline is not a group race. He doesn't operate by human clocks. He creates time. He redeems time. The promise He whispered to you didn't expire. And even if the process feels silent, underground, or slow, it's still sacred. Because while you feel like you're stuck, God is working beneath the surface. Roots before fruit. That's the order. Always has been. Your calling still stands. Maybe you've been wondering if your mistakes disqualified you, if the detours you took canceled your calling, if the silence from heaven meant the story was over. But here's the truth. Your calling still stands. God doesn't rescind promises because of your missteps. He doesn't tear up your destiny because you took a wrong turn. In fact, even your flaws were factored into His redemptive timeline. He's not just a planner, He's a restorer, a redeemer. Delay doesn't mean He's changed His mind. It often means He's protecting you, shielding you from things you can't yet see, saving you from premature exposure to places you weren't yet ready to handle. Sometimes He's silent because He's safeguarding what He's growing in you. And even if you feel like He's been distant, He hasn't. God is often closest in the waiting. He's there in your wrestle, refining your discernment, strengthening your heart, training your patience. He sees every quiet, yes, you've whispered, every time you kept walking when no one clapped, every tear you've cried alone. Sacred delay is not rejection, it's refinement. And what's being refined is holy. So lift your head. You are still called, still chosen, still on course, rebuilding trust and hope. At some point in the waiting, something strange happens. You begin to fear hope. You don't stop believing in God, but you start hesitating to believe again for this, for the thing that keeps you up at night, the thing that once brought you joy, but now only brings an ache. Because hoping again feels risky, vulnerable, almost reckless. And yet, here's the thing, hope is holy. Not shallow optimism or blind positivity, but rooted hope, mature hope, the kind that survives silence and still rises. You're not behind, you're not forgotten, you're not too late. You are exactly where you're meant to be for what God is preparing next. But comparison is a thief, and it's subtle. You see others take off. Their lives seem to move forward effortlessly, while yours feels stuck on pause. And without meaning to, you shrink back. You silence your own voice. You question your value based on someone else's highlight reel. But God never asked you to keep pace with anyone else. He didn't call you to someone else's race. You were never meant to compete. You were meant to align. He's not measuring you against them. He's refining you for something they were never built to carry. So yes, hope again. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're being perfected. And that kind of hope, it's not fragile. It's fierce. It rises from the ashes of delay and says, even now, I still believe. You are not forgotten or disqualified. When life goes quiet, it's easy to assume the worst, that God forgot you, that you did something wrong, that you've been disqualified without notice. But here's the truth. You've been hidden, not rejected. There is a deep work that happens in the shadows, a shaping that only silence allows. And what looks like stillness on the outside is often surrender in motion on the inside. You were being formed in the dark, not as punishment, but as preparation. Because visibility doesn't equal value, and impact doesn't come from applause. It comes from surrender. Quiet surrender, daily surrender, the kind that no one sees, but heaven never misses. The weight you've been carrying, it's not because God turned away. It's because He was adding substance to your soul, refining what was fragile, maturing what was hurried, protecting what was sacred. Don't misread the delay as rejection. It's part of His redemptive process. There's gold being formed in you, weight, wisdom, and a kind of depth the world can't manufacture. You haven't been benched. You've been entrusted. You are still called, still chosen. You may feel like time has passed you by, that others were chosen instead, that your opportunity faded with the silence. But hear this, you are still called. God didn't change His mind. His plans aren't dependent on popularity or pace. He's not looking for perfection. He's looking for faithfulness, for the ones who show up even when it's hard, for the ones who keep trusting even when it hurts, even when no one noticed you. God was chiseling your soul. He was peeling back the layers of old identity, the ones you wore to survive but were never meant to define you. Yes, you've carried the ache of delay, but God sees that. He understands that weariness. He knows what it cost you to still show up, and He's gently unraveling the lies that try to settle in during the silence, lies that told you you were too late, too broken, too forgotten. But you are planted, entrusted, resilient. Heaven still sees you as chosen, and nothing about your current circumstances can undo what God has offered. Your destiny isn't fragile. It's fire-tested. Part 7. Delay is not punishment. Let's clear this up. Delay does not mean punishment. Somewhere along the way, you might have started believing that your mistakes caused this pause, that your shortcomings disqualified you, that God was silent because you failed Him. But that's not how grace works. Even your missteps were seen and accounted for, not ignored, redeemed. Your failure didn't surprise God. Your confusion didn't repel him. He wasn't distant in your doubts. He was closer than ever, writing a redemptive story right through them. You see, we often blame ourselves because it gives us a sense of control. If it's our fault, then maybe we can fix it. But that's just another illusion. The truth is, you were never meant to carry the weight of your destiny alone. God's story for your life is bigger than your performance, bigger than your timing, bigger than your understanding. And blaming yourself might feel like taking responsibility, but it's really just a way to avoid grace. So breathe. Release it. You are not delayed because you failed. You are delayed because you are loved. And what God loves, He refines. Let grace carry the weight. You were never meant to carry this calling by sheer willpower. Yet somewhere along the way, you started believing that your value was tied to your effort. That if you just did more, prayed harder, performed better, you'd earn your breakthrough. You'd prove yourself worthy. But that's not how grace works. Grace isn't a reward for the exhausted. It's the breath that sustains you before you collapse. If you've ever felt guilty for needing rest, if you've ever kept working while your soul whispered, "I'm tired," just to prove you still have what it takes, let this sink in. God's silence is not absence. It's anchoring. He's been sealing the cracks in places no one else can see, strengthening you beneath the surface so what He's building in you won't crumble under pressure. You weren't being ignored. You were being protected, preserved. You were never called to earn your destiny through exhaustion. That was never the plan. Your calling isn't a race to be won. It's a journey to be stewarded, faithfully, quietly, even slowly. You don't have to strive to stay chosen. You don't have to hustle to stay loved. You don't have to perform to be positioned. Let grace carry the weight. Let do what striving never could. Because your story was never about perfection. It was always about presence. You are right on time. The world will try to convince you that you're late, that you missed it, that someone younger, faster, louder already got the opportunity that was meant for you. But let me remind you of something sacred. You're not late. You're aligned. You've been in the fire, yes. But fire doesn't destroy purpose. It refines it. And now, whether you realize it or not, you are stronger. You are more grounded. You carry weight, not just in words, but in spirit. That oil on your life, it didn't come cheap. It came through seasons of silence, of unanswered prayers, of showing up when no one saw you, of standing when it would have been easier to quit. And now you stand, not with applause behind you, but with authority inside you. So let peace, not panic, lead your next steps. God doesn't rush what He wants to last. And when heaven says you're right on time, no calendar, no timeline, no comparison can say otherwise. Breathe deep. You're not behind. You're becoming. Awakening and inner healing. There's a moment when healing doesn't arrive with a shout, but with a whisper. Not with fireworks, but with breath. And maybe that's where you are now. Not leaping, but slowly rising. Not overflowing, but gently unfolding. You're beginning to feel again, not all at once, but just enough. Joy that catches you by surprise. Peace that lingers longer than it used to. A thought, a moment, a song that doesn't hit as hard, but somehow still softens something deep within. Those small signs, they matter. They're not nothing. They are the proof that breakthrough doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it comes in the form of one chain quietly snapping. You are being restored, not to who you used to be, but to someone even more whole. God is restoring your rhythm, your sense of flow, trust, and spiritual balance. He's awakening what had grown numb, reintroducing color to places that felt gray, breathing clarity into what felt confusing. You're not the same as you were, and that's the point. You're healing in ways you didn't know you needed. Don't rush it. Don't doubt it just because it's quiet. Heaven moves best in stillness. Wisdom over timing. You prayed for progress. God gave you presence. You asked for acceleration. He offered you alignment. At first, it may have felt like he missed your request, like you asked for open doors and he handed you patience. But as time passed, you began to realize he was giving you what you actually needed, not just what you wanted. Because what's the point of promotion if you're not ready for it? What's the value of breakthrough if it costs you your peace? You are not stuck, you're stabilizing. You're being given something far more valuable than a yes. You're being given wisdom, discernment, the ability to know what's real and what's counterfeit, what's divine and what's distraction. And this wisdom, it didn't come from textbooks or teachings. It came from the school of silence, from walking blind but walking anyway, from trusting the whisper when the roar was nowhere to be found. God's mercy was in the delay, not to frustrate you, but to form you. You've been asking for direction, but God has been creating depth. Because when the door finally opens, you'll need more than confidence to walk through it. You'll need clarity, sensitivity, spirit-led focus. You're no longer chasing speed. You're living by rhythm. And that rhythm, it's rooted in wisdom. Rest is obedience. Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough credit: rest. In a culture that glorifies hustle, we forget this truth. Rest isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And more than that, in God's eyes, rest can be an act of obedience. Maybe you felt guilty for slowing down. Maybe you told yourself, if I stop moving, I'll fall behind. But what if the very thing you've been avoiding, rest, is exactly what your soul needs to receive what's coming next? The delay didn't cancel your purpose. It refined it. You're not on pause, you're in preparation. And preparation requires space, stillness, breathing room. Think about it, even Jesus rested. He withdrew. He took time to be alone, not because he lacked purpose, but because he understood pace. He knew that moments of stillness weren't separate from his mission. They were part of it. So if the Son of God wasn't too busy to rest, why are we? Faith isn't proven by burnout. It's revealed in quiet trust. The kind that says, even though I don't see the answer yet, I'll stop, I'll breathe, and I'll believe God is still moving. You don't have to collapse to qualify for a break. You don't have to run yourself into the ground to show that you care. Sometimes the holiest thing you can do is to stop striving and let grace do the heavy lifting. You are allowed to rest even when the promise hasn't arrived yet. Live with purpose even while waiting. There's a dangerous lie we often believe in seasons of delay. I'll live fully once the breakthrough comes. But if you wait until everything is perfect before you obey, before you serve, before you love, you'll miss the miracle of what God is doing in the meantime. You weren't called to sit on the sidelines while you wait. You were called to build while you wait, to love while you wait, to pour out, even if it's just into a journal entry, a quiet prayer, or a single conversation. Don't underestimate the power of what happens in hidden seasons. What you build now, before the door opens, becomes the structure strong enough to hold what's coming. God isn't looking for perfection. He's looking for devotion, faithfulness, daily yes, quiet obedience. You don't have to fill every space. You only need to be faithful with your space, the one God has assigned you. And often it's in those small, unseen acts of obedience that He multiplies more than you could ever imagine. This season is not wasted. It's foundational. And foundations, they're never glamorous, but they're what holds everything else up. Redefining strength and worth. We've been told that strength means never slowing down. That worth is tied to how much we produce. That hustle is holy and burnout is a badge of honor. But God defines strength differently. Strength in His kingdom often looks like stillness. It looks like knowing when to say no. It looks like honoring your limits, not as weakness, but as wisdom. You don't have to push yourself to the edge to prove you're worthy. You already are. And your worth has never been in question, not in heaven. For too long, we've worn busyness like armor. We've said yes to everything just to avoid feeling like we're falling behind. But here's the truth. Your value is not in your hustle. It's in your presence. You are allowed to be human. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to protect your peace without apology. There is a quiet kind of strength that comes not from striving, but from surrender. And when you walk in that strength, you're not just surviving anymore. You're truly living. You are no longer the one who has to hold it all together. You are the one who knows God is holding you. Identity beyond delay. Who are you when the title disappears? Who are you when no one is watching? When everything slows down, when the dream feels far, when progress feels invisible, do you still know your name? Delay has a way of making us forget. We start seeing ourselves through what hasn't happened yet, through missed timelines, unanswered prayers, and unfulfilled goals. But you are not what you're waiting for. You are not your metrics, not your performance, not your productivity. You are beloved. You are called. You are held. And none of that changes when life feels still. God never defines you by outcomes. He defines you by intimacy. Your identity isn't earned by progress. It's revealed in presence, in those quiet, hidden places where He whispers who you really are. So take off the pressure. Lay down the need to prove something. You don't need to catch up. You need to come back. Back to the voice that named you before the world labeled you. Back to the truth that you are still enough, even in the in-between. Because your identity was never in question. Only your awareness of it was. Move with sensitivity, not speed. After a long delay, the natural urge is to sprint. You finally feel the momentum shifting. Doors start creaking open. Light begins to pierce through. And everything in you says, hurry, catch up, don't waste more time. But here's what God is whispering. This next season isn't about speed. It's about sensitivity. You're not being called to rush. You're being called to respond. Not to the noise, not to others' timelines, but to God's presence. And that requires alignment more than acceleration. It's easy to believe movement is the same as progress. But movement without discernment can just lead to burnout in disguise. God is inviting you into something different now, something deeper. He's not asking you to chase. He's asking you to commune. Start again, but start small. Start intentionally. Start with peace. Let your steps be spirit-led, not ego-fueled. Let simplicity replace strategy. Let presence become your productivity. You don't have to make up for lost time. You just have to walk in step with the one who holds all time. Deepening spiritual connection. You don't need more noise. What you need is space, stillness, sensitivity to the sacred whisper that so often gets drowned in comparison, urgency, and information overload. Now is the time to recalibrate your spiritual senses. Fast from the pressure to keep up. Step away from the mental scroll of other people's milestones. Stop measuring your worth by metrics or applause. Some doors look shiny, but if they require you to sacrifice your peace, they're not from Him. God doesn't trade your inner calm for external validation. He doesn't lead you by pressure. He leads you by peace. So tune in, listen, create small windows in your day to simply be. Even 5 minutes of silence can shift your soul more than hours of striving. You'll begin to sense when something feels right, not because it's logical, but because it's aligned. You'll walk into rooms and feel the shift, not because you forced it, but because you were spiritually awake enough to notice. Peace is your compass now. Let it lead you. Transition and obedience. Here's a hard truth that also holds incredible freedom. Not everyone from your past season will walk with you into your next. And that's not a betrayal. That's alignment. There are people who were perfect for your last chapter, but can't carry the weight of what's coming. They were necessary then. But now, God is shifting your circle so He can elevate your purpose. And that's okay. You don't have to explain everything. You don't need a dramatic exit or a mutual understanding. What you do need is obedience. Not everyone can walk with you where God is leading you. And the deeper your calling goes, the more sacred your circle must become. You're not walking away to be cruel. You're walking forward to be faithful. Don't try to revive what God is releasing. Let it go. Trust that what He opens, He sustains. You don't need to force doors open or keep connections alive that no longer align with your growth. This is a holy transition. Honor it, walking with the Spirit. Let this settle in. The Spirit of God is not your backup plan. He's your breath. You don't consult Him only in crisis. You walk with Him daily, moment by moment, decision by decision, breath by breath. He is not the whisper you hear when everything falls apart. He's the voice that wants to guide you before the fall even begins. So when pressure rises, pause. Breathe. Invite Him in, not with complicated words, not with religious performance, just presence, awareness, trust. You don't have to carry your calling alone. You were never meant to. Overflow doesn't come from more effort, it comes from more connection. Let the Spirit be your rhythm, your reminder, your daily guide. Invite Him into your emails, your errands, your ordinary moments. Not just into your prayers, but into your pace. When the weight returns, when fear creeps in, when confusion clouds your path, pause. Listen. Don't strive. Don't scramble. Just ask, where is peace? Because where peace is, He is. Favor is moving. Not everything happens loudly. Sometimes favor moves like a whisper. Quiet, unseen, unannounced, and maybe that's what you're beginning to notice. Not fireworks, but alignment. Not applause, but open doors. Things you didn't chase, now finding their way to you. Conversations that weren't forced. Connections that carry depth. Opportunities you never knocked for, but suddenly they fit. This is the fruit of hidden obedience. The prayers you prayed in silence. The yes you whispered when no one saw. The quiet faithfulness that felt like it went unnoticed. It was never ignored by heaven. God is moving now. And He's moving not because you performed your way into it, but because your posture stayed low. Because your surrender carried weight. Because when others were rushing into spotlight, you were being built for something deeper. And here's the best part. You don't have to announce your return. You don't have to promote yourself into visibility. You don't have to prove that you still matter. God will do the revealing. His timing doesn't just restore what was lost, it accelerates what looked impossible. What you thought would take years is beginning to move in moments. Not because you're rushing, but because you're ready. This is what favor looks like when it's led by alignment, not ambition. Expectation and trust. You're not walking into the same season. Something inside you has shifted. It's not just that time passed, it's that something sacred was formed in you. And now, you don't strive like you used to. You surrender. This isn't about going faster. It's about going deeper. You've learned something powerful in the waiting. Expectation is different when it's rooted in trust. You're not waiting for the next big thing to validate you. You're not chasing moments. You're aligned with meaning. This isn't a temporary breakthrough. It's a new rhythm, a new way of living. One shaped not by performance, but by presence. Delay didn't break you. It shaped your breath. It slowed you down so your soul could catch up with your spirit. And now you're walking differently. Calmer, quieter, with more awareness, with a deeper yes. You're not hustling for your identity. You're letting the Spirit define it daily. And that daily rhythm, that sacred pace, is what will keep you steady in the days ahead. Restoration and emergence. You've been hidden for a reason, not buried, not forgotten, but protected, preserved, prepared. And now, it's not a return to what used to be. It's an emergence into who you were always becoming. This isn't about reclaiming old ground. This is about walking new paths from a deeper place, with a truer voice, with wisdom that didn't come from comfort, but from fire. God isn't just sending you back. He's sending you forward. Not as the wounded one trying to catch up, but as the refined one carrying authority. And no, you're not too late. You're right on time for the door that's opening now. Right on time for the people you're meant to meet, for the assignments you're built to carry, for the impact your soul was formed to release. What tried to bury you only deepened your roots. And now you emerge, not louder but weightier, not to impress, but to embody what was always inside you. You are not who you were, and that's the point. Walk in fire, not fear. When the next wave of fear tries to sneak in, when the voice whispers, what if it's not real? What if it slips away again? You'll know what to say. You'll breathe deep and speak from your spirit. The delay shaped me, but it didn't cancel me. My destiny is still alive, and my God is still moving. That's your truth now. That's your anchor. So go forward, not to catch up, but to carry. Not with panic, but with peace. Not in fear, but in fire. You don't need perfect clarity. What you have now is greater surrender. And surrender will take you places that hustle never could. So walk, with quiet courage, with rooted joy, with the kind of presence that turns silence into power. Because you're ready, not because you have all the answers, but because you finally believe you don't need them to begin. Let your life speak, not just with words, but with weight. You were formed in the fire, and now you walk in it.